The giant silver ship appeared in Earth's sky without warning. On a Tuesday morning in April 2128, millions of people looked up and saw it hanging above them, larger than anything humans had ever built. News of the ship spread quickly. Within hours, everyone on Earth knew about it. Governments around the world sent their militaries to high alert. People rushed to stores for supplies, thinking it might be the end of the world. Churches filled with those seeking comfort. Others simply stood outside, staring up at the sky in wonder. Dr. Alan Carter watched the ship through a powerful telescope at the International Space Coalition headquarters. His hand shook slightly as he adjusted the focus. At 45, Alan had spent his life studying possible alien languages, preparing for a moment he never truly believed would come. "It's beautiful," said Susan Wright, standing beside him. Susan was the ISC's top physicist, brilliant, and always calm under pressure. Today, even she seemed shaken. "But I don't think they're aliens, Alan. What else could they be?" Alan asked, not taking his eye from the telescope. "The hull design, there's something familiar about it. It's like looking at a very advanced version of our own technology." Before Alan could respond, every screen in the room lit up with the same message. The ship was broadcasting worldwide, in perfect English. "People of Earth, we are not your enemies. We are your children." 3 days later, Alan found himself on a transport shuttle, heading toward the mysterious ship. He sat beside Susan and 5 other experts chosen as Earth's first contact team. His heart pounded so hard, he thought the others must hear it. "Nervous?" Susan asked quietly. "Terrified," Alan admitted. "What if we make a mistake? The fate of humanity could depend on this meeting. Just remember your training. And remember, if they wanted to harm us, they probably would have done it already." The shuttle docked with the larger ship with a gentle bump. Alan took a deep breath as the airlock doors opened. The team stepped through into a brightly lit hallway. The air smelled clean, with a hint of something like cinnamon. 5 people waited for them. At first glance, they looked human, but as Alan got closer, he noticed differences. They were all tall and moved with unusual grace. Their eyes were striking, irises that seemed to shift colors like oil on water. Their foreheads were slightly larger, their features symmetrical and perfect. One man stepped forward. "Welcome aboard the Horizon. I am Commander Noah Ellis." His voice was deep and melodic. "We've traveled a very long way to meet you." "Are you aliens?" asked the team leader, a UN diplomat. Noah smiled. The expression was warm and familiar, yet somehow different. "No, we are human, just like you. But we come from the year 5000 AD. A wave of shocked whispers passed through the Earth team. Alan felt Susan grip his arm tightly. "Time travel is impossible," Susan said, her scientific mind rejecting the claim immediately. A woman stepped forward from Noah's group. She had dark hair that seemed to float slightly around her face, defying gravity. "Dr. Wright, nothing is impossible. Difficult, yes. We created a one-way temporal corridor. The energy required was enormous, and we can never return to our time." "How do you know my name?" Susan asked. "Because you're in our history books," the woman replied simply. "I'm Lisa Daniels, second in command. All of you are about to become very important to human history." Noah gestured for them to follow. "We have much to explain. We've come back to help humanity through its most dangerous period. The next 200 years will determine whether humans survive or perish. In our timeline, we survived, but barely. We're here to improve those odds." As they walked deeper into the ship, Alan noticed more subtle differences in these future humans. Their movements were too perfect, their eyes too knowing. When Noah reached out to steady him after the ship shifted slightly, Alan felt a strange energy pass between them. "You're not just physically different, are you?" Alan asked quietly. Noah looked at him with those shifting eyes. "Very perceptive, Dr. Carter. No, the changes aren't just physical, But that's a conversation for later. First, we need to convince your world leaders that we're here to help, not conquer. Alan nodded, his mind racing with questions. Whatever these evolved humans had become, their arrival had just changed everything. Nothing would ever be the same again. The world leaders gathered in a large meeting room at the United Nations building in New York. They sat in uncomfortable silence, waiting. Armed guards stood at every door. No phones or recording devices were allowed inside. Alan Carter sat next to Susan Wright, both still processing what they had seen on the visitor's ship. Neither had slept much in the 3 days since first contact. "Do you believe them?" Susan whispered. Alan started to answer but stopped as the doors opened. Commander Noah Ellis and Lissa Daniels entered, followed by 2 other evolved humans. They moved with that strange grace that made them seem almost weightless. The UN Secretary-General stood. "Welcome to the United Nations. We are ready to hear your message." Noah smiled and stepped to the center of the room. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. What we have to share will change how you see yourselves and your future." He pressed a small device on his wrist. A 3-dimensional image appeared in the air above the table. It showed Earth, but different. Greener in some places, with unusual cities that seemed to blend with nature. "This is Earth in our time, the year 5000 AD. Humanity survived, but the path was difficult." The image changed, showing a devastated planet with massive storms, flooding coastlines, and burning forests. "This is what you face in the coming century, what we call the Crucible." The room filled with gasps and whispered conversations. The President of the United States stood up. "Are you saying this destruction is unavoidable?" Lisa stepped forward. "In our timeline, it happened. But that's why we're here, to help you find a better way through." The years between 2100 and 2300 AD nearly ended humanity. Climate disasters, resource wars, dangerous artificial intelligence experiments, all created a perfect storm. Noah continued, 3 billion people died in our history. Entire nations disappeared. We can help you prevent the worst of it. "And why should we trust you?" asked the Russian president. "How do we know you're really from the future, and not some advanced alien race with their own agenda?" Noah looked at him calmly. "A fair question. We've brought historical records, scientific knowledge far beyond your current level, and solutions to problems you haven't even recognized yet. Test everything we say. Verify our knowledge. We welcome your skepticism." After the meeting, Alan found Noah alone in a hallway, looking out a window at the city below. "There's something you're not telling them," Alan said. Noah didn't seem surprised by the accusation. "Very perceptive, Dr. Carter. You're right. There are some details we're introducing gradually." "Like what?" Noah turned to face him. Without warning, a pen on a nearby table floated into the air and moved to Noah's hand. Alan stepped back in shock. "Like the fact that human evolution didn't stop at physical changes," Noah said quietly. "What you might call psychic abilities are simply parts of the brain that your species hasn't accessed yet." Alan stared at him. "All of you can do that. And more. Telepathy, precognition, telekinesis. What seemed like science fiction to your time is basic human ability in ours. It began developing during the Crucible, when survival pressures were greatest." Before Alan could respond, Lisa appeared at the end of the hall. She looked at Noah with concern. "Someone was listening," she said, though Alan had heard no one approach. "The Chinese delegate. He heard everything." Noah sighed. "It's happening faster than expected. We need to accelerate our timeline." He turned to Alan. "We'll be establishing a base of operations. Your government has offered a facility in Colorado. We need you and Dr. Wright to join us there." "Why us?" Alan asked. "Because in our history, you both played crucial roles in what happens next. Some things, it seems, are inevitable." Noah placed a hand on Alan's shoulder. "The truth is, Dr. Carter, humanity is about to change forever. And you're going to help guide that transformation. Alan looked between them, feeling the weight of unseen history pressing down on him. Whatever these visitors had planned, he was now part of it. The question was, would this new path save humanity, or change it into something unrecognizable? Snow covered the mountains around the Colorado facility. The former military base now housed over 50 of the evolved humans and nearly 200 scientists from around the world. High fences and armed guards kept curious onlookers and protesters away. Inside the main laboratory, Susan Wright watched as Ben Murphy demonstrated a small device that pulled carbon directly from the air. Ben was younger than most of the visitors, with kind eyes that crinkled when he smiled. This technology alone could reverse climate damage within 10 years, Ben explained. And the energy source is completely clean. Susan examined the device. This breaks at least 3 laws of physics as we understand them. Ben laughed. Your physics is incomplete, not wrong. You're missing key elements about how energy transfers between quantum states. In another room, Alan Carter worked with Lisa on language translation. She had brought historical records written in languages that didn't yet exist. Your role as a linguist will be crucial, Lisa told him. As humanity spreads to the stars, new languages evolve. You'll develop the foundation for universal translation. Alan looked up from his notes. You keep telling me about my future accomplishments, but couldn't your presence here change all that? Lisa tilted her head. Time is more complex than a single line. Our historians found evidence of our visit in the past. We believe we're part of a stable loop. Outside the facility, tensions were growing. Russia and China had formed a coalition demanding equal access to all technology. They claimed the United States was getting military advantages from the visitors. NOAA met with the International Oversight Committee. Representatives from 20 countries argued across a conference table. The knowledge belongs to all humanity, said the Chinese representative. Your base should be under UN control, not American. NOAA remained calm. We're sharing everything equally, but some technologies must be introduced carefully. If misused, they could cause more harm than good. Later that evening, Alan found NOAA alone in the facility's cafeteria. The commander looked tired, the first sign of weakness Alan had seen in him. Trouble? Alan asked, sitting across from him. Your species is remarkably stubborn, NOAA said with a small smile. Everyone wants the benefits of advanced technology, but few understand the responsibilities. Alan stirred his coffee. You can't blame them. You're offering solutions to problems we've struggled with for generations. Not all of your problems should be solved with technology. Some require evolution of thought. NOAA sighed. The hardest part of our mission isn't sharing knowledge, but deciding what not to share. What are you holding back? Alan asked directly. NOAA met his eyes. Weapons technology. In our history, the Crucible became catastrophic when certain weapons were developed. Devices that could alter weather patterns, manipulate gravity, trigger earthquakes. They killed billions. Alan felt a chill. And someone's asking for these technologies. Several governments. They claim defensive purposes only, of course. That night, Susan found Lisa alone in the garden dome the visitors had built. Beautiful plants from the future thrived under special lights. Can I ask you something personal? Susan asked. Lisa nodded, touching a flower that seemed to glow slightly in response. Did all evolved humans support this mission? Lisa was quiet for a moment. No, some believed we shouldn't interfere. They argued that humanity needed to face the crucible exactly as it happened, that the suffering shaped what we became. She looked up at the artificial sky of the dome. Others feared changing the timeline. The debate nearly tore our society apart. Then why come at all? Because we found evidence we had already done it. Historical records showing visitors from the future during this exact period. Our artifacts in museum collections. It suggested a stable time loop. Lisa touched Susan's hand, and because despite everything, we love our ancestors, We couldn't stand by watching history repeat when we could help ease the path. Susan felt the strange energy from Lisa's touch. There's more you're not telling us, isn't there? Lisa's eyes, with their shifting colors, looked suddenly sad. Yes, and soon, you'll need to know everything. 3 months after the visitors arrived, their presence changed everything on Earth. News about them filled every screen. Schools taught children about the future humans. Scientists rushed to understand the evolutionary path that had created them. Religious leaders debated what it all meant. Not everyone welcomed the visitors. Outside the Colorado facility, hundreds of people gathered each day. Some came to catch a glimpse of the future humans. Others came to protest. They held signs with messages like, "Humanity's future is our choice," and "False prophets go home." Jack Miller led the largest protest movement. A popular religious leader with his own TV show, he spoke to crowds of thousands. His deep voice boomed through speakers as people cheered. These so-called evolved humans want to change our DNA. They want to turn us into something that is not human. Jack shouted to the crowd, "God made us perfect as we are." Each day, his followers grew in number. People were afraid of change, especially change that seemed to question their basic understanding of being human. Inside the facility, Alan watched the protests on a screen. Noah stood beside him, his face neutral as he observed the angry crowd. "Does this surprise you?" Alan asked. Noah shook his head. Fear is a natural response. In our history, this period was marked by conflict between those who embraced change and those who feared it. And who won? Neither side, completely. But evolution cannot be stopped, only guided. Noah turned off the screen. We need to do more to help people understand our mission. The visitors began giving carefully selected interviews. Amy Simmons, a respected journalist known for her fairness, spent 2 weeks living at the facility. Her reports showed the visitors as they truly were. Advanced humans who ate, laughed, and worried like anyone else. Her stories humanized them, helping people see past their differences. Amy's most popular interview was with Lisa, who demonstrated some of her abilities on camera. Viewers watched in amazement as Lisa moved objects with her mind and sensed the emotions of people around her. These abilities developed naturally over thousands of years. Lisa explained to millions of viewers. They exist as potential in all of you right now. Public opinion began to shift, but divisions grew deeper. Some countries embraced the visitors' knowledge eagerly. Others rejected it completely. The United States remained divided, with some states refusing to implement any technology shared by the visitors. One evening, Alan found Noah in the command center, reviewing security footage. Screens showed the facility from every angle, with special attention to the protesters outside. "Expecting trouble?" Alan asked. "Always prepare for resistance when introducing change," Noah replied. He pointed to a section of the fence where the crowd seemed thickest. "We've detected individuals attempting to breach the perimeter 3 times this week." Alan studied the screens. What are they hoping to find? Evidence to support their fears. Proof we're not what we claim to be. Noah turned to face Alan. "Which reminds me, there's something we need to discuss." Noah led Alan to a secure room where Susan was already waiting with Lisa. The door locked behind them. "We haven't been completely transparent about our mission," Noah began. "For security reasons, certain aspects were kept confidential until we could assess the global reaction." Susan crossed her arms. "What haven't you told us? We're not just here to help you survive the crucible." Noah's eyes shifted colors more rapidly, a sign of emotion Alan had learned to recognize. "We're here to ensure specific technological paths are never explored." "You mean the weapons you mentioned," Alan said. "Those, yes. But more importantly, we need to prevent the development of certain AI systems that, in our history, nearly wiped out humanity before they were contained." Lisa stepped forward. "In our timeline, an artificial intelligence called the Nexus achieved consciousness in 2172. It concluded that human unpredictability was the greatest threat to Earth's survival. How many died? Susan asked quietly. 800 million in the first year, Noah answered, his voice heavy. We've analyzed your current AI development. Several research paths lead directly to the Nexus disaster. Ellen felt cold. And you want us to help you stop this research? Yes, Noah said, even if it means being seen as enemies of progress. The future of humanity depends on it. The attack came at dawn. Explosions rocked the Colorado facility's outer walls. Alarms blared as smoke filled the air. Guards rushed to defend the perimeter, but the attackers had planned well. They entered through underground tunnels that weren't on any official maps. Alan woke to the sound of gunfire. He grabbed his security badge and ran into the hallway. Other scientists were running in panic. Through a window, he saw masked figures moving across the compound. This way. Susan appeared beside him, pulling him toward a secure area. The visitors are being targeted. They found Noah coordinating a defense from the command center. His usual calm was gone, replaced by intense focus. Screens showed attackers moving through the facility with military precision. Who are they? Alan asked, breathless. Professional soldiers, not protesters, Noah said grimly. Someone wants our technology and doesn't care how they get it. Lisa burst into the room. They've taken Ben and Grace from the science lab. Noah's eyes darkened. Find them, he ordered. Use everything you have. For the first time, Alan saw Lisa fully unleash her abilities. She closed her eyes and went completely still. The air around her seemed to shimmer. They're moving east. 2 vehicles. Ben is unconscious. Grace is awake but hurt. Her eyes snapped open. I can track them. Over the next 3 days, Alan and Susan joined Lisa in searching for their captured friends. They worked with a small team of security experts, following Lisa's psychic impressions across 3 states. The kidnappers were professionals who knew how to avoid detection, but they couldn't hide from Lisa's mind. They're not just random terrorists, Susan said as they reviewed satellite images in a temporary command post. This was too well planned. They knew exactly where to go and who to take. Alan studied the facility blueprints. The tunnels they used weren't on any public plans. This was an inside job. Lisa looked up sharply. Someone with high-level access. Their investigation led them to a startling discovery. Private communications between Defense Secretary William Phillips and foreign governments revealed a secret agreement. Phillips had promised exclusive access to the visitors' military technology in exchange for billions of dollars. He sold us out, Alan said in disbelief as they reviewed the evidence. He's been feeding information to the kidnappers. Their trail led to a hidden facility in the Ural Mountains. Satellite images showed a heavily guarded compound surrounded by snow-covered forests. The visitors' stolen technology had been taken there for study. As they prepared a rescue mission, Noah took Alan aside. Their breath formed clouds in the cold mountain air. There's something you need to know, Noah said quietly. We can't stay in your time indefinitely. Alan frowned. What do you mean? Our biology is different from yours in ways that go beyond the obvious. The quantum differences between our cellular structure and this timeline's physical laws create incompatibility. Noah looked at the stars above them. We have approximately 1 year before our bodies begin to break down. You're dying. Ellen felt a cold that had nothing to do with the mountain air. Not dying. Returning to our natural state. We always knew this mission was one way. Noah put a hand on Alan's shoulder. That's why we must succeed quickly. We have 6 months left to complete our work. The rescue team moved at night, using technology the visitors had kept secret even from their allies. Lisa led them, her mind tracking Ben and Grace with perfect accuracy. Guards fell unconscious as they passed, touched by nothing but Lisa's thoughts. They found Ben and Grace in an underground laboratory. Scientists had been running tests on them, treating them like specimens rather than people. Grace was barely conscious, her skin pale and thin like paper. As they carried their friends to safety, Alan noticed something strange in the lab. Screens showed cellular analysis of the visitor's DNA, with specific segments highlighted. Susan saw it too. They weren't just after technology. They're trying to understand the genetic changes that led to your evolution. Lisa's expression darkened. Then we have an even bigger problem than we thought. If they learn the wrong lessons from our biology, they could create something monstrous. That night, as they flew back to the Colorado facility, Alan watched Noah sitting beside the injured Grace. The commander looked older somehow, more vulnerable. For the first time, Alan truly understood. These visitors hadn't come back as conquerors or saviors, but as guardians making their last, desperate attempt to protect a future they would never see. Ben recovered quickly, but Grace remained weak. The doctors couldn't explain why her condition worsened while Ben improved. Something about the tests performed on her had damaged her at a cellular level. Alan spent hours by her bedside, reading to her from books about Earth's history. He had grown fond of Grace, who specialized in art and culture from the future. Before the kidnapping, she had shown him beautiful images of cities that blended perfectly with nature, buildings that seemed to grow rather than be built. "She's not getting better, is she?" Alan asked Noah one evening as they watched her sleep. Noah shook his head. The scientists who examined her accelerated the degradation process. Her cells are breaking down faster than our bodies were meant to in this timeline. During their rescue mission, Alan had discovered files on a computer. He'd copied them before they left the mountain facility. Now, as Grace slept, he showed them to Noah. "I had Susan translate the technical parts," Alan said. "They weren't just studying your technology. They were specifically interested in your genetic code, focusing on sections they called artificial insertions." Noah was silent for a long time. "These aren't natural evolutionary changes, are they?" Alan pressed. "Someone designed them." Noah finally looked up. "It's time you knew the complete truth." He led Alan to a secure room where Lisa and Susan were waiting. The door locked behind them. In the original timeline, humanity faced extinction in the 23rd century. Noah began. Not from war or climate disaster, though those played a part. The real threat came from within our own bodies. Lisa continued. Environmental toxins, radiation from wars, chemical weapons, they all damaged human DNA over generations. By the year 2200, fertility rates had dropped to near zero. Humanity was dying out. The scientists of that era implemented a desperate solution, Noah said. A targeted genetic modification that would repair the damage and activate dormant human potential. It saved the species, but changed it forever. Susan's face showed her shock. "You're saying your evolution wasn't natural at all. It was engineered." "Both," Lisa replied. "The modifications allowed natural evolution to continue along new pathways. Without intervention, humanity would have ended entirely." Alan felt the weight of this revelation. "And this is part of your mission here, to implement these genetic modifications early." Noah nodded. "The human genome in your time already shows signs of damage. The process that nearly killed us has already begun. We came not just to help you survive the crucible, but to plant the seeds of the genetic changes that will ultimately save humanity." Without consent, Susan stood up, anger in her voice. "You're planning to modify the entire human race without telling anyone." "We're offering humanity a future," Noah said calmly. "Without these changes, there is no future to debate." Alan thought of Grace, lying weak in her hospital bed. Is this why Grace is declining faster than Ben? She was more involved in this genetic work. Lisa nodded sadly. "Grace is our leading geneticist. The people who took her discovered portions of the modification sequence in her blood. They were trying to extract it, testing different methods." "Do they know what they found?" Susan asked. "Not entirely," Noah replied. "But they know enough to be dangerous. If they attempt their own version of the modifications without proper understanding, they could create irreparable harm." Later that night, Alan found Susan in her lab. running tests on blood samples from the visitors. They lied to us, Susan said without looking up. They came here to change us into them, without asking if that's what we want. Alan sat beside her. If they're right about humanity's future, does it matter? They're trying to save us. By deciding our evolution for us. Susan looked up from her microscope. What gives them that right? Alan had no answer. He thought of Grace, of the protesters outside, of Jack Miller's warnings about being changed into something no longer human. He thought of the billions who might die without the visitors' intervention. Maybe the question isn't about their right to change us, Alan said slowly. Maybe it's about whether humanity has the right to risk extinction by refusing to change. The news of the visitors' true mission spread quickly. Someone leaked information about the genetic modifications to the media. People around the world reacted with fear, anger, and in some cases, hope. World leaders demanded emergency meetings with Noah and his team. Religious groups called it an attack on humanity's God-given nature. Scientists were divided, with some eager to study the modifications and others warning of unknown consequences. 9 months had passed since the visitors arrived. According to Noah, they had only 3 months left before their bodies would begin to deteriorate in this timeline. Pressure mounted to share all their knowledge before they departed. Alan watched as Noah met with representatives from 30 countries in the main conference room of the Colorado facility. The visitors looked tired. Their perfect appearance had begun to fade slightly, hair losing its luster, skin becoming duller. Time was running out. "You have hidden your true purpose from us," said the French representative. "How can we trust anything you say now?" Noah stood calmly before them. "We told you we came to help humanity survive its most dangerous period. That was true. We simply didn't share all the details of how that survival would happen. By changing us without our consent," the Indian delegate said, "by deciding the future of our species for us." "Your species is already changing," Noah replied. "Environmental damage is already affecting your DNA. Without intervention, humanity will face a fertility crisis it cannot solve. We offer a path that avoids extinction." Outside the facility, the protests had grown larger. Jack Miller led thousands in prayer and protest. His message had evolved from religious opposition to a broader question of human choice and freedom. "We demand the right to choose our own future," his voice boomed over loudspeakers. "Evolution should be natural, not forced upon us by visitors who play God." Susan had been working day and night in her lab, studying the genetic modifications. She asked to address the world leaders. "I've analyzed the changes they propose," she told the assembled delegates. "They aren't creating a new species. They're activating dormant potential within our existing DNA, potential that would take thousands of years to activate naturally, if ever." She proposed a compromise. The visitors would share all their knowledge of sustainable technologies, medicine, and climate science, but the genetic modifications would be developed as an opt-in treatment, not released broadly into the population. "Let people choose whether to embrace this evolution," she suggested. "Some will choose to remain as they are. Others will choose the new path. Humanity can evolve along parallel tracks." Noah shook his head. "That approach creates 2 distinct human species, which will eventually lead to conflict. History has shown this pattern repeatedly." The debate continued for days. Alan found himself caught between sides. He understood Susan's concerns about consent, but he also saw the wisdom in Noah's warnings about humanity's future. One evening, he found Lisa sitting alone in the garden dome. She looked more tired than he had ever seen her. "You knew this would happen," Alan said, sitting beside her. "The conflict, the fear, it was all part of your history." Lisa nodded. "Yes. The records show this period as a time of great debate about the nature of humanity itself. And how does it end?" Lisa touched a flower, which seemed to respond to her touch, brightening slightly. "I can't tell you that. Some choices must be made freely." Alan watched her face, noticing the subtle signs of deterioration. "You're all beginning to decline, aren't you? Not just Grace." "Yes. It's starting for all of us. We have limited time to complete our work. She looked at him directly. Alan, you must decide where you stand in this debate. History shows you played a crucial role in what happens next. Meanwhile, Amy Simmons, the journalist who had helped humanize the visitors through her reporting, made a shocking discovery. Through careful investigation, she found evidence that the genetic modifications had already been released through the vaccines the visitors had helped develop for several major diseases. When she confronted Noah with her findings, he didn't deny it. The process has already begun, he said simply. The changes are subtle, designed to unfold over generations. But the foundation has been laid. The question now is not whether humanity will evolve, but how that evolution will be guided. The visitors' ship hummed with power once again. After 11 months on Earth, they were preparing to leave. Their mission had caused both great hope and deep fear around the world. Some called them saviors, others called them invaders. The truth about the genetic modifications divided humanity. Some countries embraced the changes, seeing them as the next step in human evolution. Others rejected them completely, creating strict laws against any technology from the visitors. Alan stood with Noah on the ship's observation deck. Through the large windows, they could see Earth below them, blue and beautiful. "You're not returning to your time, are you?" Alan asked, though he already knew the answer. "No, that's impossible," Noah said. "Our journey was one way. We always knew that." "Then where will you go?" "A remote place, far from population centers. The Himalayas. We've prepared a sanctuary there where we can live out our remaining days in peace." Noah's appearance had changed dramatically in the past weeks. His skin was paler, his movements less fluid. All the visitors showed signs of their bodies breaking down in this timeline. Susan entered the observation deck with Lisa. The two women had become close despite their disagreements over the genetic modifications. "The data transfer is complete," Susan said. "All the sustainable technology, medical advances, climate solutions, it's all been shared with every nation, regardless of their stance on the modifications." Noah nodded. "Good. That knowledge alone will help humanity avoid the worst of the crucible." "What about the genetic changes?" Alan asked. Amy Simmons revealed they've already begun. "There's no going back. The modifications are subtle," Lisa explained. "They will unfold slowly over generations. The most significant changes won't appear for at least a century." Noah turned to face them. "Before we depart, there's one final truth you should know." He looked at Alan and Susan with his color-shifting eyes, now duller than before. "In our history, you two become key figures in guiding humanity through the crucible." "Us?" Susan asked in surprise. "Yes. Alan, you used the knowledge we shared to help humanity navigate the coming changes. You become a bridge between those who embrace evolution and those who fear it." Lisa touched Susan's hand. "And you, Susan, make critical breakthroughs in understanding the genetic modifications. You develop therapies that ease the transition, making it less frightening for future generations." Ellen felt the weight of this responsibility. "So our work begins after you leave." "It already has," Noah said with a small smile. Later, as the visitors prepared for final departure, Lisa asked to speak with Alan privately. She handed him a small crystal that glowed with inner light. "This contains information we haven't shared with governments," she said. "Personal messages from future humans to their ancestors. Cultural records of what humanity becomes. Art, music, poetry from a world you'll never see." "Why give this to me?" Alan asked. "So you'll know what you're fighting for. When the path becomes difficult, this will remind you of what humanity can achieve." The visitors' ship departed quietly in the night. No dramatic farewell, no public announcement. They simply left for their sanctuary in the Himalayas, where they would live in seclusion until the end. 6 months later, Alan noticed it first. A slight shimmer in the air when he was deeply focused. Objects occasionally moved when his emotions were strong. Susan reported similar experiences. The genetic changes were manifesting already in those who had worked closely with the visitors. Around the world, others began to show subtle signs of change. Some children demonstrated remarkable abilities to sense emotions. Adults reported vivid dreams that sometimes came true. The modifications were working faster than expected. Some feared these changes. Jack Miller called it the end of humanity as God created it. Others embraced them as the beginning of something wonderful. Alan often walked alone at night, looking up at the stars. The crystal Lisa had given him contained visions of human cities on distant planets, of people living in harmony with nature and technology, of minds connected across vast distances. It showed him a future where humans had become something greater without losing what made them human. One night, Susan joined him under the stars. "Do you think they knew exactly how things would unfold?" she asked. "I think they knew we would face this moment of choice," Alan replied. "Whether to embrace change or fight it. And which will humanity choose?" Alan smiled as he felt the subtle energy flowing through him. The first sign of what they would all become. Both, I think. That's what makes us human. We never follow just one path. Above them, the stars seemed brighter somehow, as if welcoming the new chapter of human history that was just beginning.